Joining me now is former Democratic Congressman Patrick Murphy. He was the first Iraq war vet elected to Congress. And Jon Soltz, an Iraq war veteran and chairman of VoteVets.org. Let me start with you, Congressman. Weren't these senators today really arguing about President Bush and President Obama on foreign policy?
They were, Rev, and it was like neocon 101. They were relitigating the Iraq War. The Iraq War that had nothing to do with 9/11, the Iraq War that diverted our attention from bringing bin Laden to justice, and the Iraq War that cost over 4,000 American troops their lives and just about $3 trillion. I mean, it's time to start nation building at home.
Right.
And I will tell you that, Chuck Hagel, today should have been an historic day because he's the first enlisted man ever to become SecDef, Secretary of Defense. And instead, it was putting him on the defensive. Now, let me tell you something, too. They're trying to make him look weak about the Iraq War because it was not the right war. But look at what happened in 1999. Chuck Hagel always puts his country first. Muslims were getting murdered. It was the worst ethnic cleansing in Europe since Germany, since they were killing Nazis. And President Clinton, then the commander-in-chief, said, we're going to send our men and women into Kosovo and Bosnia.
Right.
It was Chuck Hagel that said, I'm supporting the president to send our troops and enough troops to get the job done.
To go to Kosovo and
to go to Kosovo. He's one of only 2 Republicans in the whole country in the U.S. Senate to do that. The man wears his heart on his sleeve for his country, and they try to dishonor him. They attacked him as much as they could, but listen, he's been through a lot worse in his life than getting a hard time.
John, the thing that amazed me about the exchanges today is they were attacking Hagel as if there were weapons of mass destruction there and that he was wrong about his conclusions on the war. I could see if they said he was wrong and he was proven to be wrong. He was proven to be right. So how do you attack someone that got it right and you got it wrong?
Well, Senator Graham and Senator McCain, when you're in the hearing the way I was today, I mean, they have this personal issue with Chuck Hagel. And the truth is that Chuck Hagel was a Republican who opposed the Iraq War, and that makes him different from every other Democrat. It's why our members love Chuck Hagel. It's why 8,000 VoteVets members have signed petitions for him, veterans and military families. It's why 6,000 of them sent 13,000 emails to the Senate yesterday. But it's why Republicans hate him. Him and John McCain used to have a very close relationship. He had endorsed John McCain as fellow veteran in 2000. In 2008, obviously Chuck Hagel had taken stances in 2006. Him and Senator McCain went back and forth on the surge. Senator Hagel did not support him during his presidency. Guess what? John Kerry, he breezed through confirmations hearings. He had many of the similar votes that they attacked Senator Hagel on today, including the surge. But he wasn't a Republican that had broke rank. And see, Congressman, the way he was dealt with by Senator McCain, let me show you the questioning of Senator Hagel repeatedly today about why he opposed the troop surge in 2007 that John was just referring to. Watch this.
The surge being the most dangerous. Senator Hagel, the question is, were you right or wrong? That's a pretty straightforward question.
Well,
I would like to answer whether you were right or wrong, and then you are free to elaborate.
I'm not going to give you a yes or no. I think it's far more complicated than that. Our war in Iraq, I think, was the most fundamental bad, dangerous decision since Vietnam. In the surge case in Iraq, we lost almost 1,200 dead Americans during that surge and thousands of wounded. Now, was it required? Was it necessary? I'm not sure. I'm not that certain that it was required.
I mean, McCain just seems not to be able to get over it. What is he talking and badgering him about? Clearly, the war was wrong. Clearly, Mr. Hagel, even though he was a Republican, put the Republic over the Republican Party.
That's right. And what you see, and American people have spoken on this in 2006 and 2008 and 2012. And, my issue is that, there are some folks that are criticizing Chuck Hagel and about not being strong with Israel. Well, look at this strategically, Rev. Israel's number one threat is Iran.
Right.
Iran's number one threat and the counterbalance to Iran used to be Iraq.
Right.
But because we invaded Iraq, now they're buddies. Iran and Iraq are buddies, and they're joining forces here. That was the strategic failure that they refused to admit, these neocons. day after day after day. They think the American people are sleeping on this, but they're not. And that's why Chuck Hagel is going to get through, and I think he's going to be a great SecDef.
But let me raise another thing. John, in the Huffington Post today, you write about the hearings, and you say you raise another dimension to this. You say, I'm reading from the article, this vote, I believe, is a referendum on neocon policy, not on Chuck Hagel. Chuck Hagel being confirmed would put a nail in the coffin of neocon military policy. And that drives senators on the right insane. Most of them are neoconservative and therefore will vote against Hagel as a means to preserve their own influence and the influence of other neocons over our military. This is a bigger picture fight, you're saying. Hagel is merely a symbol of the end of the neocon era over dominating foreign policy.
It is the end of interventionism in a sense that you're going to see people like me with hundreds of thousands of troops during multiple deployments in far corners of the world, because Chuck Hagel understands that that's not, a sustainable policy for our country, both from a budget standpoint but from a force projection standpoint. And I think that's super important. When I had to debate the Afghanistan troop increase, something that I opposed, one of the last people I went over to Georgetown to see Chuck Hagel, and we had been allies on the anti-surge in Iraq in 2007, and he just said to me, be very careful. You could put thousands of troops in Afghanistan, but what's the real end state? What is actually doable? And the fact that Chuck Hagel was a Republican and he's not a neocon, I got to be honest, and I'm sure Patrick can tell you this, there's a lot of Democrats in town that think they can just execute neoconservative policy better than Republicans. And this is the end of neoconservative policy. And this is a real referendum on Iraq. And Senator McCain has this sort of part of his personality where he has to be right, and so does Senator Graham. And they look like fools today.
Let me say this, John. He has to be right. Let me show you, Congressman, what John McCain said. Mr. John has to be right, McCain said in 2003 about the Iraqi war.
I believe that Saddam Hussein presents a clear and present danger to the United States of America with his continued pursuit to acquire weapons of mass destruction, and there's very little doubt that he would use them. These weapons of mass destruction were a clear and present danger to the United States of America. That's why we are attacking Iraq. And
we're not going to get into house-to-house fighting in Baghdad.
We're going to find out massive evidence of weapons of mass destruction, and we're going to find the incredible brutalities that this dictator has inflicted upon the Iraqi people.
We're going to find weapons of mass destruction. We're going to find weapons of mass destruction. Now, I don't doubt he may have believed it then, but it ended up wrong. So now, how do you, on this side of knowing there were no weapons there, sit up there today and begin badgering a man who happened to be right, even though he was a member of your party?
Right. And most Americans say, I want people to go to Washington, whether they're Democrat or Republican, and put the country first. That's what Chuck Hagel did. And because he did that, now he's getting attacked by his own. It's like a Republican on Republican crime right now. And it's wrong, because he followed the convictions in his heart and his mind to do what's right for the country. And they're trying to make him pay the price now. And I think the Senate is going to do the right thing. And like I said, I think Chuck Hagel he's going to be an inspiration, because you know why? First enlisted member ever to be SecDef.
Right.
There's about 2.5 million troops in the U.S. military right now who say, man, one of our own is leading us from the front.
That's who you want as Secretary of Defense, and one who does not abuse military power. Former Congressman Patrick Murphy and Jon Soltz, thank you both for your time tonight.
Thank you. See you, Soltz.
Coming up.